Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and this is a video response to an atheist challenge to any atheist or non-believer. I swear, if I keep making these kinds of videos, I'm going to turn into an alcoholic. So, I'm going to have a beer, and I'm going to address an atheist challenge to any atheist or non-believer. Friends, in Hebrew, Psalm 23:3, Nafshi Yeshovav, Yahani, Vamagile Sedek Laman Shemo. He turns back, or restores my spirit, and leads me in narrow paths, or narrow trenches, or pathways of righteousness for his name's sake. Sedek Laman Shemo. So, the user in this video says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." He says, seek God first. That is not correct. Both here, God will lead you to righteousness, Psalms 23:3, and in the text that I just quoted, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. The kingdom of God is virtue. So, virtue is my God, and I cling to the robes of virtue to obtain the highest good. That is the kingdom of heaven. And religions, theologians, theologies create barriers to doing this. He says I have to practice a verse. It's fairly easy. Who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? So friends, it doesn't take a Christian to ask who your neighbor is or what virtue is. You don't need to be empowered by some deity to choose virtue over vice, justice over injustice. But a lot of times, friends, we're finding that religions and Jesuses and gods and deities and men may cause us, in the names of those religions, deities, gods, and men, to commit injustice. So, even the deities themselves, even God himself, is held to the highest form of virtue and righteousness, because if he was not, he would be an unjust deity and a deity of vice, and why should men follow him? That's what the agnostics and atheists are saying. So friends, the other day, a guy from the Methodist Church does me a good deed. He comes down with his snowplow, comes in my driveway, shovels out my driveway, goes back home, does the front walk. I come home from work, so Mr. So-and-so is here again. What a nice man. But I look over, friends, and my neighbor who lives next door to me, who shares the same driveway, was still plowed in. And friends, I was furious, because I looked, half the driveway was snow plowed. My half was plowed. So friends, I was so furious, I grabbed a shovel and committed to virtue. At 9 o'clock at night, shoveled out that driveway for my neighbor, because it was the right thing to do. And I don't know why such a wretch would make such a decision not to plow out my neighbor too. Little decisions like that, friends. So, you can have your prayer breakfasts. I'm not saying that all Christians are like that. Of course not. But I'm also saying that not all atheists are workers of evil and vice, like our friend here who is offering the challenge implies. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his virtue, and all these things will be added unto you. However, if you're doing good just for the selfish desires of heaven, then it's a form of vice. Sorry to say it. It does you no good. You should be doing good for goodness sake. Doing good for virtue, not for selfish desires of heaven. Not for laying up treasures in heaven. So, friends, people might yell at you for being an agnostic or atheist, but all it takes is to turn back to your spirit. Turn back when you find yourself making decisions of injustice, decisions of vice, to turn back and face virtue. And she'll always be there, and you can grab a hold of her robe, and no matter what gods and men might say, she'll always have your back. So that's my answer to the atheist challenge. And I guess that what I would like to ask our righteous brother who reads his Bible every day, what about your neighbor? What narrow paths of virtue and righteousness are you following? Or are you more or less worried about the religion, the theology, and the name, rather than doing? Virtue requires you to do something. The Good Samaritan could have been an atheist, had to carry the robbed and beaten man to the inn to dress his wounds. The prodigal son very well could have been an atheist. When he came to himself, turned back to virtue. And in the parable, I like to think of the father as being virtue. He's looking out, and virtue will always look out for you. And when it sees you coming from a long ways off, friends, it'll run out to meet you. It'll put a ring on your finger, and it'll give you a robe to wear. So friends, don't listen to our brother here. Don't let him scare you. Don't let him wave his Bible at you. Because unless he's waving virtue, the Bible wouldn't matter. So be well, friends. And remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.